really trying to do, though, as Venki mentioned, was replace a rather large, or very large, monolithic legacy system, which we'd had in place for about 18 years. That's 18 years worth of business rules, 18 years worth of functionality, 18 years worth of hacks that had all been lovingly plowed into the system. And there really was a huge amount of IP invested in this application, but we needed to replace it. It was reaching the end of its life. It wasn't scalable. It wasn't sort of meeting our growing and changing requirements anymore. And we really just needed to move to an application or platform which was more modern and better suited to our current needs. So we started down the route of Appian. We're implementing Appian. And that really, the journey was intended to take us across 5 different departments who were currently using this legacy system. It was upwards of about 400 users, and this application or the system we were using was their primary tool, which they were using every single day for absolutely all of their work. It really was sort of the backbone of our organization. This was quite lucky because one of the things that Appian does really well is kind of bring together data from multiple different sources, orchestrate, manage workflow, etc. Yeah, so we kicked this off and I say that was sort of in about May 2017. And this is just a view of that time, the May 2017 to now, May 2020. So we've just passed our 3-year mark. All of the Allan Gray employees did the Appian training. We got somebody out from Appian who trained us all on the application. And it was really useful, it was great. Everyone from testers to business analysts did that. And then we got going. But you'll notice that right up front, we didn't actually have any Appian developers. We relied exclusively on Vuram's developers. And that was a conscious decision. We wanted to start delivering value early. We wanted to get some stuff out the door. And so we went with people who had the skills pre-existing. From the start and sort of right up until COVID hit us, we've aimed to have one Vuram resource on site during the course of the project. After sort of early on in January 2019, we split into 3 teams. And fairly shortly after that, we split into our 4th team. At around that time as well, we actually decided that the model we'd followed with our recent hire was one worth repeating, and so we hired an additional 3 graduates out of university, all comp sci graduates, and we told them the same story. We sort of said, we'd like you to become Appian developers, and we again ran through the Appian training that's provided online, allocated them to respective teams, and within a relatively short period they got going. Interestingly, with this second batch of developers, we tried to be a bit more intentional about how we trained them up, and we sort of did the online training like we'd done with the first guy, but then we sort of stuck them in a bit of an incubator. We tried to sort of give them a dummy project to work on after their training. And interestingly, the feedback that they all gave us sort of a few months into their careers was that they appreciated the sort of gentle approach we took with them, but actually they learned far more when they jumped into their teams and got stuck into real work, solving the real problems that we were dealing with, rather than sort of sitting in an incubator and trying to build a sandbox solution. I mentioned we've got 4 teams, and maybe just to kind of talk about how that's structured at the moment. So what we've done is we've obviously built these teams fairly organically. As I indicated, we started out with 1, we've grown into 4, and we've added, well, we've had Allan Gray resources throughout, obviously, but we've added Vuram resources strategically to support that implementation. And we were quite explicit with Vuram right up front. We sort of said, you know, we need you guys to help us deliver. You're the experts. We want to be delivering functionality, but we also want to be delivering our own internal capabilities, and we need your support. we've really appreciated and realized the need for having fairly technical people on the development of this project. And it may differ. I mean, I've said it may be a myth, like maybe if you're building something that's relatively self-contained, or it's sort of only servicing a small user group, then that's fine. But I think if you're going for a more scalable solution, if you're running multiple teams, if you have multiple features with shared components, multiple branches of code, if you're looking at any form of sort of continuous integration, continuous delivery, having qualified developers, or at least people with strong technical backgrounds, is pretty important. But I think one of the most beneficial things, especially for young developers, is the ability to pick up a tool or to pick up a programming language which delivers value fast, and they can join a team of experienced people, and they can actually start adding value pretty early on. With a lot of other programming languages, it takes you a good long time to get proficient. You have a lot of kind of back and forth. You need a lot of guidance and hand-holding. And I think with Appian, it's a great way to build a young developer's confidence in their ability to deliver value, to contribute meaningfully towards a team. I mentioned the Appian training materials. They are great. Some of them are a bit, if you've got a competent developer, they can probably skip through a lot of it quite quickly. Some of it covers some fairly sort of fundamental stuff. And like I said, we ended up using the Appian we had an Appian trainer right up initially, but I would recommend the online training materials. They're free and they're really good. But as I mentioned as well, I think they provide you with great theory, but then the best place to learn is on the job. It's in a team, it's picking up tasks, it's struggling through those tasks initially, and having somebody who you can ask questions of. Wanting to deliver while you learn, you need to get a partner. You need somebody or a group of people who are able to help you to deliver value. There are not many instances in terms of software implementation where you have the luxury of just learning and kind of spending months getting up to speed and figuring out how something works. So if you're wanting to deliver value, meet deadlines, hit deliverables, and at the same time get upskilled, you need to sort of have the skills that are, you need some out-the-box skills that are going to be able to do that for you, not only in terms of delivering, but actually also in terms of upskilling your own. COVID has taught us that remote work and working from separate locations is completely doable. We kind of knew that to begin with, just because 80% of our Vuram team is in India. But when the other 20% went home, we managed, and we're managing well. I don't think there's been any sort of noticeable dip in delivery. And yeah, I definitely think that sort of having distributed teams, it's completely doable. So I think the cost benefit, it's a tricky one. Like there are probably some hidden costs that you want to be really careful of. Trying to do it all internally, and obviously, doing it all externally has its own costs as well. I think if we hadn't built any internal capabilities within Allan Gray, I'd be very worried. If all of the IP sat in Vuram's heads, that wouldn't be a good position for us to be in. We wouldn't be comfortable at all. So we want to have a strong internal competence. We want to build that gradually over time. But yeah, I think I'm quite happy with how we've managed to balance that. It is a balance. You want to sort of have the balance, that cost-benefit balance needs to be carefully weighed. Speed and learning.